Florkas are a vital part for the ascension process of the Temerians. Commander Ransom writes acoustic songs about his trip to Barcelona. I mean, she said like Barcelona, but we all know they do that. And we get to meet a Tellarite captain, by the way. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, everybody.
We're also joined by associate producer, Mr. Tim Baum. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And my name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are reviewing Season 1, Episode 4 of Lower Decks, called Moist Vessel. Moist Vessel.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The title of the episode.
Yes,
So,
and you know what? I didn't know that you were naming these episodes, Ryan. Very good job.
Thank you. Thank you. People were like, what should we call it? Should we call it Ancient Vessel? I was like, how about Moist? And they're like, no, what about like Spaceship? I was like, what about Moist? And they just,
Is
you're
everyone
right.
else feeling moist?
Yeah, I just kept trying to slide it in there, and they finally accepted.
Yes, they finally accepted it.
So how you guys doing? Tim, you said before we started recording, you said that of the 4 episodes so far, coincidentally, this one is your preferred one, your favorite one, right?
Yes, I think this was, I hate to use the word seminal, but it's like, okay, they're finally getting their stride. You know, we've talked offline about how fast the editing and the dialogue was. Almost, yeah, just it's too much. This one, they actually settled down. We had a storyline that wasn't, and you know, we found out about the mom-daughter thing, which we knew about in the first episode, but now they actually acknowledged it. Mm-hmm. And you know, kind of my personal experience in the military, it followed. You know, okay, you know, they try to get rid of her by doing the drudge work. That's actually fun. It's when you become a leader and have to sit through PowerPoint and meetings that you want to bug out.
You know, I have a major nitpick about that I'll hit it in a minute. Before we do, though, I do want to say, everybody, please do us a favor and feel free to subscribe and hit the bell icon. That's the best way to support this show. Helps keep us going. If you have a few bucks to spare, feel free to jump on our Patreon, patreon.com/the7th-rule. Money's tight right now, we get it. If you can't, just hit subscribe, share this with your friends, comment in the comments below. That helps YouTube show it off to other people. We appreciate it. Cirroc, is this your favorite so far too?
Yeah, I have to agree with Tim. It is my favorite. And I think simply for the fact that I'm getting to know the characters at this point. I've grown fond of them. And they keep making this subtle adjustments that I think we talk about on our discussion of the program. So every time we talk about some type of alteration that would make sense for the show, it seems as if they're listening and they make those very alterations. In this particular case, I would say, you know, Tim brought up the mom-daughter relationship. And that was something I think we talked about before, saying it would be better if they developed that, and they did.
It's almost certain that they drop that deliberately to, you know, finish it off later. It was also very funny when she called her Carol, when Mariner was like, Carol. She's like, how dare you?
Yeah, very good. I thought it was a good episode. I also like so far they've been coming up with really good themes, like second
I apologize.
contact.
Oh, no problem. No, it looks like you're having little issues with your earphones, but we got it going. What were you saying, Cirroc?
No, the themes of second contact and the visiting aliens, and in this particular episode, you know, lugging the old ship across and, you know, trying to beam it across. And then having this inorganic matter material that turns things into living materials.
Terraforms it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Terraforms, yeah. So I think these are really good episodes, and you know, this show is growing on me faster than I think any other incarnation of Star Trek. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there were also a lot of cool Easter eggs. I mean, less than maybe some of the others. like, first of all, Captain Durango was a Tellarite, which I thought was awesome. We also had the guy that turned in, that ascended, did the ascension, is reminiscent of a lot of themes that have been done in the past, not to mention Captain Sisko, when he becomes a being of energy, when he's like the emissary at the very end and becomes like one of the wormhole prophets. What else? There were a couple. Oh, one that was great was the Temerians, when they mentioned she mentioned the vital ascension process of the Temerians. Now, Temerian was what was featured in one of the best Next Generation episodes ever, which was Darmok. And Darmok was an episode in which Captain Dathan and Captain Picard are on a planet and they're trying to communicate. It's a really good episode, really one of the best episodes. And he was a Temerian, and those were the Temerians, and so it was cool that they mentioned him. Those were some of the Easter eggs I noticed. Let me see if there was
I'm completely, I have no audio whatsoever. I'm sorry.
You can't hear us?
I'm working on it.
If you want,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't hear you at all.
No problem.
And
Keep
so
working on it.
I'm going through everything I can to.
No problem. Oh, the other Easter egg was in the holodeck when what's his name, Boimler, pretends to be on the holodeck. He's like, oh, nothing. That was just the holodeck. Moriarty. Now that's another reference to Next Generation, because at Next Generation, Data likes to play Sherlock Holmes on the holodeck, and Moriarty is like Sherlock Holmes's arch nemesis, and there's some episodes with Moriarty becoming a villain to Data and to Picard and all that. So it's a nice little reference to those. Did you catch that reference, Tim, when they mentioned it?
Yes, I did. I'm finally back. So I mean, I'm a tech geek, and I got messed up with this Zoom. It's like all of a sudden my audio dropped out, and I'm trying different headphones and.
No problem. But you did catch the reference to Moriarty, right?
Yes.
Those were good. People love Moriarty. Our buddy Marie Segal loves Moriarty episodes for some reason.
I forget the actress's name, but his wife or his mistress.
Yeah, I don't know.
I love that actress. I can't remember her name, but the episode where they, finally went off on their own in a computer cube. But
I remember that. Yeah, that was a good one. No spoilers for when Cirroc sees it.
It's only 25 years ago, but
so those were the Easter eggs. Let's go through the episode here. What did you think, Cirroc, of Captain Durango? He was the other captain, the Tellarite captain that was on the other ship, the USS Merced.
Merced, yeah.
Yeah, he was all right. He's the guy that was a little bit annoying for Mariner and causing him to yawn a lot.
Yeah, she sure yawned a lot.
She did. I thought he was all right. I didn't know the backstory on the Tellurite.
Right. Well, and also, if you're going to ask Mariner, or if you want to know if you think he's annoying, you're going to tell her, right? Okay, maybe that one didn't work. Yeah, I tried that, but it was maybe I need a better setup. I'll work on it. I'll say 10 more times before we're done.
That needs a lot more work.
So Tellarites are known as kind of annoying and argumentative type aliens. They're one of the first four races to create the Federation. It was the Tellarites, the Andorians, the Vulcans, and the humans. So they have been around for a long time. They're kind of annoying, kind of argumentative, and that's their shtick. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And apparently he served with captain on the USS Illinois was what they mentioned. I don't know anything about the USS Illinois, but they did mention that, so it's worth mentioning here. What do you guys think about the humor on the episode, this one?
I actually, for probably the first time watching this, I laughed out loud.
What parts?
When they made her sit through the meetings, because I've been there. It was like, God, I'm trying to remember. There was some good humor. It wasn't bawdy, but it was, okay, I've been there, done that, and I laughed at it. It's like,
Yeah. No, go ahead, Cirroc.
No, I have to agree with Tim on this one. That I did laugh out loud, and the line that made me laugh out loud was when Mariner's mom was talking to the lieutenant about, giving her daughter enough bad stuff to do, and his line was like, "I got her emptying the blink from the holodeck blink program."
Yeah.
Yes. What do you think?
and she's enjoying it.
What do you think those blanks were, Cirroc?
Well, I think they were blanked out for a reason.
Yeah.
Because it didn't look like the holodeck program that they were talking about is the X-rated program where guys go in there to relieve themselves. So I'd fill in the blank somewhere in there, but I thought that was hilarious because it got quiet all of a sudden right when he was saying that. And it's like one of those moments where you're saying something that you don't want everybody to hear, and it gets really quiet. So I laughed at that joke.
That could be one of the Mad Libs. I've got her emptying out the blank in the holodeck's blank filter.
Yeah.
Well, and when he responded, do they really do that in the holodeck? Yeah. It's like,
yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I thought that was hilarious.
There were a few funny moments. Like for me, I like the very subtle, like you blink and you miss a moment. Like last week I thought it was funny that one of the crewmen was walking by the captain, scratching his butt. Like they didn't zoom on it, they didn't make a deal out of it. But if you look closer, they're like, hey, that guy's scratching his ass as he's walking by the captain. I just think that's funny. Like it makes you think, like, see what this poor lady has to deal with. You see what this lady is going through. She's trying to be the captain of a starship, and dudes are just walking by, scratching their ass. She's just like, God, can I just have real people? But the moment that made me chuckle and actually go back and watch it was when Mariner was lubing, when she was lubing the tube.
The turbo lift. The
turbo lift. Yeah.
She was lubing the turbo lift. And Shax, before he gets in, Lieutenant Shax, the chief of security, before he gets into the turbo lift, there's a sign there that just says like ensign working on whatever. And he doesn't just ignore the sign, he just flings it away.
Rips
Just like a Frankenstein monster. I don't know why, but these little things that just show you how simple-minded the guy is just crack me up.
Well, I think maybe some of the writers were actually in the military. Just because the way they wrote this episode, like I said, you end up in a leadership position and it sucks. But, what I actually like is it's lower decks, but it's lower decks of a minor ship.
Yeah.
In the Star Trek verse, we've always got the flagship. But, because I'm Navy, it's like, okay, you have the oilers, the tenders. And it actually, when you talk about some of the body humor and scratching the butt, on the smaller ships, that actually happens because you don't have 5,000 sailors. You've got 100. So you become like a family and you feel free to do that stuff. So that's it. And I think this episode actually, like I said, I think they're starting to hit their stride, especially they stopped the rapid fire editing, which, right, left, center, right, left, center, right, left, center, which was terrible. But they didn't do that this episode. So it's like...
Yeah.
There was actually there was maybe more humor that I appreciated in this one. You're right. I don't know if it was my favorite, but like for example, I thought it was funny when they said, at Commander Ransom's birthday, He's going to sing and play acoustic guitar for hours about his month in Barcelona. And of course, we all roll our eyes because we're like, oh my God, we know that guy, and we know what's, and that just cracks us up. And then they even mentioned it a second time. Oh, when he's like, do you know what's the most sensual peninsula in the world? The Iberian Peninsula. So we know, we're well aware of your thoughts on the situation, Ransom.
Yeah. I also like the moment there that followed the one you were talking about, where they said, oh, and next up is this guy. He's going to go through all the characters of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And then he starts off and he says, oh, hello there. I didn't see you beaming in, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
It was like a lounge act. It kind of reminded me of an office party where you have all your colleagues doing like a Christmas party or something.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to be there because, it's an obligation thing. And then they go into like this karaoke or some kind of thing that you're not at all hyped up about. But you have to participate anyways. And that was what I kind of.
And the title was his one-man show, The United Federation of Characters. That's good. That's, these are kind of like those little slice of life things. You're right. Like the office party or like the office humor where you're just like, oh God, we know this guy. We know what's going on here.
Yeah. And also the other thing I wanted to add really quickly before you ask that next question was that they kind of moved away from the Tendi and Rutherford love connection that they were trying to establish early on. For now, and I like that, actually. I like that they were expanding it and kind of moving them out to meet other characters and opening that door up to, because it was too confined by having Boimler be with Mariner and then Tendi be with Rutherford. It's like, all right, well, this is not that large of an idea, they need to expand this out. And they started too by tearing that down. So I thought that was a good decision.
Yeah.
Right. I'd like to see more of Ensign Barnes. Let's see if Ensign Barnes, the Trill lady from the first episode, can bring Rutherford around. I mean, you're right. It just creates more story, more depth than two people falling in love in the first episode. Then you're like, okay, well, they're not going to do as much from there. We are going to take our break very quickly, but when we get back, I'm going to tell you guys my nitpick, because this is a big one, and this is a legitimate Star Trek beef here. Okay, so
all right,
because I have my nitpicks, but
get your tomatoes out, because here it comes. We'll be right back on the Seventh Rule. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Seventh Rule. We are reviewing Season 1, Episode 4 of Lower Decks. It's called
Moist Vessel.
We know. So here's my nitpick. Here's was my major nitpick. I mean, there's always a bunch, but here's the major one. We all know in Star Trek that when an ensign gets promoted, what is their next rank? Their next rank is lieutenant junior grade, and they get the black pip.
The half pip, yeah.
Correct. They do not get the full pip and get promoted to lieutenant. And these guys are so good with their Star Trek continuity and their Star Trek knowledge and their Star Trek references that I was actually surprised. I was like, wow, are they really just bringing an ensign directly to a lieutenant? Are they skipping junior grade completely? Because this is something that literally nobody's ever done. This is, it always goes ensign, lieutenant junior grade, lieutenant commander, captain, admiral, whatever. So that was kind of like, come on, guys, you know better than that. Give her the right pip. Anyway.
Well, part of that, I think, was just to promote her, because lieutenant junior grade, we always joke that's not a real lieutenant, because Star Trek bases it on Navy ranks, so I'm Navy. Maybe they, gave her a combat promotion up to lieutenant, and the whole idea of her promotion was to get her to quit.
Well, yeah, and to get her to sit in on those meetings.
Yes,
So,
which are tedious as all get out.
right.
And
But
Cirroc,
yes.
as you say,
Yeah.
sitting, speaking of Sid, yeah, Bashir was originally a lieutenant junior grade when he first started off on Deep Space Nine, and he was in, you know, the meetings and the conference rooms and things like that. So they could have still done it with him or with her as a lieutenant junior grade. But anyway, like, not to beat a dead horse, but I felt like that was a pretty obvious one that they.
Yeah.
It's a big miss. It's a big miss. Yeah.
Any nitpicks on your part, Cirroc? I know you're always like, hey, you know, you hike up those glasses and you say, you missed this. Temerians don't.
That's not protocol. That's not protocol. No, I didn't really miss anything, but I did. Like I said, I enjoyed the humor. I enjoyed the dialogue. That's really what carries the show. For example, when she is sitting in on this meeting as a lieutenant, they start going into the details of the chairs. You know, we need a chair with a leather strip down the middle. What about the bar stools? You know, bar stools hurt my back. I like that kind of discussion, even though it was super boring for Mariner to listen to. But I just thought it was like, yeah, these are the stupid, arguments that they have, on the upper decks. You know, deciding what color the carpet should be or something, and it's like, really not that important stuff.
What about executive poker when Ransom's going suckling air through his teeth and it just like amplified, like, what is this guy doing? And they're all folding. That was obviously a reference to, in Next Generation, they would play poker.
Yeah, poker,
like the executive officers would, but they loved it. They enjoyed it. It was a fun time. So this was a fun little reference to that. What do you guys think of the executive poker scene?
I thought it could have been better. I would have liked more of a back reference to the other, Next Generation. But no, it was because Next Generation used that in several episodes, including one that was kind of like Lower Decks, where some people that were brought into the poker game who were not normally part of the senior staff.
It was called Lower Decks. The episode was called Lower Decks, and it's actually personally one of my favorite Star Trek episodes ever.
Wow.
It's got a character named Cito Gaston that was great. It's got Alyssa Ogawa, Nurse Ogawa, who was used in multiple episodes. Yes. It was a really good, solid, one of my favorite episodes, and it was called Lower Decks.
That's where the Bajoran
Cito
actress,
Gaston. That's right.
Cito Gaston, she was killed. She volunteered for this essentially suicide mission. But yeah, that was aside from, that was a Lower Deck episode, and I think in Voyager they had a Lower Deck episode where the captain was like, okay, these three people have never been off the ship, so I'm going to take them off the ship. And so, that was kind of, and they were actually working in the Lower Decks, so it was kind of interesting. They were all ensigns, and she gets one of them killed, but anyway.
It happens.
Yeah. So do you think that they took the title of this show from that Next Generation episode?
I think that they used the title despite the fact that it had already been used, because it was a good title for it. They wanted to call it Lower Decks. I'm sure they were like, well, there was already an episode called Lower Decks. And I think they said, well, that's fine. We don't mind using the same title. It's like a reference to it or an homage to it, or just to think, kind of like Firefly. The first episode is called Firefly, and the movie's called Serenity. And the first episode's called Serenity, and the ship's called Serenity, and the movie's called Serenity. Like, they just keep reusing the same thing. So I guess it's okay for them to have an episode called Lower Decks as well as a series called Lower Decks, especially because it's one of my favorite episodes. So I thought that was cool.
And, like I mentioned before, one of the distinctions, because Next Generation had the Lower Decks, but this is Lower Deck of a oiler or a tender versus the Lower Deck of a carrier, the flagship. Right. And so I think I love the dynamic because we're in the lower deck of a scrub ship. So the officers are like going, I'm stuck on this scrub ship. What did I do wrong? So I'm going to try to make it better. But then you've got the worst
Crew.
You know, it's like, you know, it's kind of like Mr. Roberts, the movie, you know, with. So yeah, that's what I like about it. It's like,
Yeah. I have a nitpick myself, and my nitpick is with Rutherford.
Mm-hmm.
And originally, when they introduced his character, he was just getting the cyborg implant, and it was malfunctioning. And I thought that's a dynamic to his character that made it extremely funny. And I thought that that's something that they should have kept going. He should have constantly had these kind of outbursts where he would just say something, something just completely awkward in the moment. And that's something that added humor to his character. And now when they remove that, he's kind of boring. Yeah. I think Rutherford's character is not that exciting for me. Right. So I think they need to kind of bring that back. Him having malfunctions, him spitting off at the mouth, just saying blatant truths that shouldn't be said. I think that makes it more interesting for Rutherford, because right now I see him losing his presence on the show.
He's kind of a bland character. I mean, what's good about him is that he's an engineer through and through. He loves engineering. He loves to, lube, whatever Jeffrey's tubes and things like that, or whatever he does. That's his thing. But you're right. There's not much depth beyond that. Like, that's really it. And that's cool, and it's fun, and it's cute if it's a secondary or tertiary character. But if it's one of the four main characters, there needs to be more depth to him than that.
Yeah. I think the show, just like any show, whether it's Deep Space Nine or whatever, the first few episodes, the characters are trying to find themselves. And I mean, in this case, it's the writers. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so where do we go with this? And, of course, you don't have you have voice actors, but, they kind of guide, okay, this is how the characters should go. Because the first few episodes of Deep Space Nine, the characters all kind of changed eventually, once they started actually getting to the meat of the show. And I'm hoping that, with this episode of Lower Decks, I liked how, it was the first time that the mother-daughter relationship was actually acknowledged together. Right. Versus the first episode where it's like, your daughter is terrible. Well, you're the captain of the ship. Take care of it. So
right, where they actually acted like a mother-daughter for a second with their little squabble, right?
Mom, I've got a pointy rock. Come on. Where's my rock? Yeah.
And
it's called being a captain.
It also showed a little bit of similarities between the two personalities,
yes, they
right?
did.
The way they were kind of fighting in the same way, right?
Yeah. And there wasn't the rapid fire editing between the two. Okay, we had the central camera. We didn't have to have an epileptic seizure.
I like the line where the mom says, "It's called being a captain," and then daughter says, "No, it's called being a dick."
Yeah.
that was a funny line right there.
Yeah, I think I laughed at that one.
Twice.
Yeah. And then the other one was said, "Computer, hit it," and the computer responded, "Hitting it."
Yes, that was cool.
I just love the little bit of humor. And then at the very end, the admiral that came on, who mispronounces words, I thought it was
Censor.
I laughed out loud when he said, "Are you making fun of me?"
It's like,
so it's stupid, but I thought it was hilarious.
Right. Right.
That was a great scene. Yeah.
The censors thing, that was another part of Star Trek lore that was created by Mr. Leonard Nimoy. He was trying to create an alien character, a Vulcan that had never been done before, so he started pronouncing censors as censors. And since then, the Vulcan actors, every actor that played Vulcans afterwards, started calling them censors as well. Like Jolene Blaylock playing T'Pol in Enterprise, she calls them censors. Tim Russ in Voyager calls them censors. It's just like this thing where like Vulcans say, okay, we do this, we pinch people, and we say sensors. That's our thing, you know. But this is the first time we've ever seen like a non-Vulcan saying it, and then he got called out for it right away. So yeah, that was a good one.
And then she gets demoted because of it. You know, it's like,
which we knew she would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wanted to, so.
it is called lower deck, so she has to maintain.
She's got to mess up.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And you know, another thing they did in this episode was expand on Tendi, who didn't get too much screen time so far, and now she's getting her own little. She had the B storyline in this particular episode,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I liked her in this B story. I kind of want to get more of a sense of who she is and what she's about. You know, most of the characters in Star Trek you can reduce to a one-word type of thing. You know, you say, "Oh, Quark is greedy," or
conniving.
Conniving, and Kira is strong, or and so you can really reduce people down to one word. And with Mariner, she's like rambunctious and overactive.
That's a good one.
Rebellious,
yeah.
Rebellious, yeah. And Boimler is the super nerd on the
He's
on the
a
show,
mess.
Right? But
he's my favorite character.
Yeah, I like him, but I just can't put a title on what Tendi is yet, because I don't know which way she's going. She's kind of been all over the place as far as personality wise. So I'm not honed in on that, and Rutherford as well. I'm not really honed in on where they're at. So,
but you're right that in this episode we found out a lot more, because that part of her personality that they revealed in this new episode was the most telling aspect of her personality so far. She lies. She does whatever it takes to get people to like her, and we're like, okay, that is a character trait that we can sink our teeth into. Overexcitement, nervous, arrogant, whatever. Those things are everywhere all the time. But that's a very specific character trait of I'll do whatever it takes to get people to like me. And if I hear or think for a second that somebody doesn't like me, I'm going to ask a million questions about it. And we get that. That's I think that's where you're going with that, is that like we finally got something revealed about her to where we're like, okay, we get it.
She's insecure about something. We just don't know what it is yet,
Right. And then she also revealed in the line that Ryan's referring to. She says, "We're both jerks.
Yeah.
We wanted to be liked so much that we lied," or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So.
Right. And then they said that they're best friends. She's like, "Wait, if we're both, I guess that means we're best friends. Oh, I'm going to die with my best friend."
Yeah. Yeah. And then the Ascension scene, which was hilarious in itself, just
it was.
When the guy was ascending and he was, he finally got it. What is this weird koala?
Yeah. We're all on the back of a giant koala.
Yeah.
Why is he smiling? What does he know?
It's burning. It's burning.
Yeah. The secret to life is.
Yeah. Well, we knew they weren't.
Okay. I really wanted him to shout out 42.
Yeah. I was thinking that too. But
that would have been from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That would have been. Okay. What's the answer? 42.
42.
That would have been perfect.
Yeah. But it's definitely a typical joke. We've seen that before. The meaning of life is. Oh, I didn't get it.
Oh, yeah. Too bad.
And let's.
No,
go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, I was going to say just being a captain is like vocal jazz. That was another line that I just.
Yeah.
About the lines you don't say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Boimlerplate. So he had a little bit of a kind of a C storyline where he saw that Mariner gets the promotion by being basically a jerk to everybody, or being insubordinate, right? So he's like, okay, maybe that's the key. And it kind of comes to a head when he just goes up to Ransom and spills the coffee on his lap in the middle of an emergency for whatever reason. He's like, no, that's not the right time to spill coffee on someone's lap, if there ever were a right time for that. So I guess Boimler is going to be more of the guy that, beyond everything, is just his number one focus is just getting promoted. Yes. Whatever it takes to impress somebody or get promoted or do the right thing, or, you know, he's trying to find the cheat code, you know, that Mariner does so easily that she excels at.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Boimler is like, you know, I've got some insight having been in the military. It's like you work your butt off and you see these other people get promoted. I'm doing my job. I'm doing it great. Why are they getting promoted? It's frustrating, but it happens. Mm-hmm. You know, in this case, it's, I mean, there's the side story where she's the captain's daughter, but, you know, she's a slacker. He's a hard worker. Why am I not getting promoted? Well, you also have to play the politics, which some of us are not capable of. But yeah, it's like, I like him because he's actually working his butt off. And, you know, the very first scene of the very first episode, he's pretending to be the captain doing a captain's log. When they bust in, are you doing a captain's log? It's like, yeah. So
a quick question about the Navy. When you do get a promotion, and may sound dumb, but
no.
When you get a promotion, it doesn't just come with a rank title; it also comes with a financial promotion. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you get.
Yeah, with each rank has a maximum pay rate. So. In my case, when I went from E5 to E6, it was a huge jump because E5 maxed out at 12 years, and I was at 14 years. So I hadn't seen a pay raise in 2 years. So I went up to E6 and then also got the bump of the years. So that was a huge jump. But
nice.
You
actually,
do get.
I heard the most money is if you're E40.
E40, that doesn't exist, but
Cirroc knows, right? E40 gets the most money out of all the ranks.
It's a reference to a rapper from the Bay Area. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
For a second,
I'm in Indiana, so
I wasn't 100% sure if Cirroc was going to get it because he gave me that blank look. But then I was like, finally, I get the shaking head. So my job here is done.
Job is done. Mission accomplished. No, so that's just a little background. So the promotion comes with a raise in pay as well.
Yes.
I wanted to make that clear.
Yeah. And actually, if you're living off base and you're married, it actually comes with a bump. If you go from E5 to E6, which I did a few years ago, your housing allowance and your subsistence actually goes up also.
Nice.
So that, you know, if you're in San Diego.
Oh, yeah, I want to ask you this, though, Tim, because they referenced this in the episode, and that's when Mariner at the end says, well, I've got the replicator password for the
officers.
For the officers that get better food. And it made me think, so the Replimat doesn't just give food for everybody? Like there's a different level of good food that you can't access?
It is. Yeah. If you're on one of the big decks, so like a carrier, an LHD, the chiefs, which is E7 and above, have their own dining area. The officers, the wardroom, have their own dining area. And they usually have better cooks. For us scrubs, we stand in line and get the slop poured on. Mm. So, yeah, the higher up you get, the better food you get. And then if you're the captain of like a carrier, you actually have your own chef. And it's usually like a 19-year-old kid that's very talented that feeds the captain and the admiral if there's an admiral. But yes, the food gets better the higher up you get.
Seems like that would be a good gig.
Ryan,
Pardon?
I think have you talked about that in Star Trek at all?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, they've talked about there have been a lot of differences in food, as in like an Enterprise, they would actually have a chef that would cook for them. And so Archer and his first officer and his chief engineer would often have dinner together, the three of them, in the captain's quarters, and chef would cook for them. But yeah, they've never really referenced, I'm hearing a lot of clicking all of a sudden. where they never really referenced like differences in you know, what people are fed or anything like that.
Right.
I think this was just a specific, you know, thing for the gag for this show, because that's never been mentioned before. No.
But it's realistic.
But it's realistic.
Well, what was that movie with Jennifer Lawrence when they were awoken earlier on a ship and they had the whole cruise ship to themselves? I can't remember the actor, but he was woken up earlier and he had like a card. He was like lower deck, and he would get food, put his card in and get food, and then she woke up and she's like, she gets filet mignon. He's like, whoa, wait a minute. Well, I've got the gold card. You just got the lower deck card.
That sounds more like Las Vegas hotels, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
how those go. Well, we're just
Is the generation ship a real thing? Really quickly, is that an actual ship that we've seen?
Okay, that did sound familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked it up, and no, because I thought the same thing. I was like, is that a thing? I feel like that's a thing. It is something it is a commonly used theme in sci-fi, that they do have generation ships, meaning a ship that can sustain life for more than a generation, you know, if they're traveling super far. So that's been used in a bunch of sci-fi shows, and maybe this was in reference to one of those. Maybe, you know, the writers had a specific sci-fi show or movie in mind that they wanted to pay homage to. As we know, they've done that with Star Wars already, with the sand giving a rash and getting all over the place. And they do reference other things. But in Star Trek itself, unless I'm wrong, but I looked it up and I didn't see anything. But it does sound familiar, right? It did seem like something that would have been used before, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people in the comments can let us know if we're wrong about that.
They will.
They will, yes.
They will. And yeah, in the comments below, yeah, please just let us know any of your thoughts or anything that we missed, you know, because there's a lot of things we miss. You know, we watch it once, we talk about it amongst ourselves, but there's some things that you don't catch it right away, or sometimes you see it on a second or third viewing, or your friends tell you about it.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention that I really like about this show was when somebody rings the little doorbell to somebody's quarters, there's that recognizable chirp, that door chime that we've heard in Next Generation. Next Generation has a very specific chime that we've always heard, and I forgot all about it until we heard it in this episode. I don't remember who it was, but they came and they just rang the little doorbell and it did that little chirp, and it was like, it's like Next Generation. It was like, I haven't heard that sound since Next Generation, and it was a very good little detail, little piece of detail for us that I really appreciated. So that was cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're just about out of time here. But before we go, we do want to give a special thanks to Carmen Shamwell, PJ Tomas, TJ Jackson-Bey, Bill Victor Arucan, Yvette Blackmon, Dennis Koch, Homer Frizzell, Eve England, and Marie Segal, Titus Mohler, and Mr. Tim Baum.
Tim Baum.
We also want to give a shout out to Mr. Aaron Eisenberg and always thank him for everything. Before we go, Cirroc, any final words?
Moist vessel.
Yeah, there we are.
That's
all right.
it.
Well, thank you all very much. And my name is Ryan T. Husk. That's Cirroc Lofton. And please give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us some comments in the comment section below. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, and always remember the 7th rule.